So there is a question here that is in the chat group. Longpo, let me read it out to you. This is from Ray Fang. Her question is, Bhante, I have recently broken the first precept. There was an ant nest in my cabinet. As I was clearing it, I could have killed some of the ants. I also sealed up some of the cracks on the walls to prevent ant infestation. Sometimes I feel some bodily irritations, such as itch, inside bites, though there were no insects at all. What can I do, Bhante?
You probably have to apologize to the ants that you killed, because if they could speak, they wouldn't want to die. They'd be saying, don't kill us. I'm not sure of the situation, but it's a big problem, isn't it? Living in the world, ants are the number one bug creature that come into our house, our kitchen, our room. So you do your best to at least remove the intention from your mind to kill them, squash them. And you do your best to, sometimes you use a soft broom, sweep them out. And Jen Chah used to say, just keep your room really clean, because then insects tend not to nest there when it's really clean and you're regularly clean. Prevention is all right. So if you're filling in cracks in the wall, if you're not directly killing them, that's not harming animals. You're just improving your wall. But if you have killed them and you knew you killed them and maybe you were just careless and didn't really care in that moment, so you killed them, well, you have to, in your mind, you apologize. And maybe when you do some chanting or meditation, just share your blessings with ants and try and reestablish your intention not to kill deliberately again next time. So if you take on that rule, then it makes you think, what other way can I solve the problem? So it makes you look into prevention. As I was saying, cleaning your place, preventing them. You can sometimes put powders and things down that don't kill them, but just they don't want to walk across those powders. You do the best you can to avoid deliberately killing creatures. And if you practice more and more metta and karuna, then you tend to kind of think naturally in this way. You know, you don't want to kill them and hurt them, so you just look for another. So everyone's got coughs tonight. You look for another solution to the problem. This morning I was walking along the road here in the monastery and there were ants everywhere. And I just tiptoed along doing my best not to deliberately squash. So I don't know, maybe I squashed one or two because it was hard to walk, but the intention was not to squash. And in the end, that's all you can do, isn't it? You have the intention not to harm, and you see, I was trying to walk around the ants, but they're everywhere. So it's like I couldn't walk around them. They're just everywhere. So I just tiptoed through them until I got through the large area of the ants and did what I could. They have to also look after themselves. So you just wish them to have enough wisdom not to walk and be in places where cars drive or people walk. But they have to look out for themselves as well, just as we do. You know, when you cross a road, you don't just walk into the road, do you? You look left and right. We have to look out for cars as well. So try and keep that intention not to kill in your mind, and then develop metta and karuna as an ongoing quality in your meditation and in your daily life. And this will flow on into your actions towards animals, people, give you more patience with aggressive people or difficult people. You know, these are ongoing practices. Until we're enlightened, we're just developing these qualities, the Brahma Viharas, all the time.
Thank you, Bhante. Can I please invite Katerina? Katerina, could you please press the unmute button? Yes, thank you.
Hello, Ajahn. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to hear. I'm sure we're all sometimes a little bit concerned about your cough. I hope your health is good.
I've been friends with this cough for 20 years, so don't worry about it. It's not a COVID cough. It's a meat cough. It's a Kalyano cough. Soon as the very first time I came to Australia with Ajahn Kalyano in 1998, the first thing I did was catch flu. And so I went through that entire trip in 1998 coughing with flu. And that set the kind of tone for coming back in 2001, starting the monastery. And then I caught flu again and again and again, and colds and flu many, many times, like more times than I can remember. So it's called a post-viral cough. It's just this little itch. It may be similar to COVID, but I had it long before COVID came along. And sometimes it disappears, sometimes it comes back. So I've just made friends with it, and you just live with these things. So don't worry about it. Focus on the Dhamma.
Thank you, Ajahn. My question today is around what is intuitive wisdom, and how does one develop intuitive wisdom, and what are the qualities of intuitive wisdom so that when one is practicing, one knows that we are on the right path. Thank you.
Well, in short, the quality of wisdom is that knowledge that removes suffering from your experience, or is going to prevent you from doing something that will bring more suffering to yourself or others. So I always compare it to that teaching you get when you're a little kid, because this meant a lot to me. When I was about 4, we got our first electric cooker at home with those black rings that don't even glow when they're hot. And before that, we had a gas cooker, and I could see flame. I knew this is painful if you touch it, so I never touched gas flame. But now we had this cooker with these black rings that you could cook. They're hot, but you don't see flame. You don't see even a glow. And so I was really stupid. I just thought, I've got to see what it's like. So I touched it, and I got my finger burned. After that, I never had any more doubts. This cooker, when you turn it on, it hurts if you touch it. That's wisdom. So intuitive wisdom is just you're faster, you're quicker. It becomes second nature to you to know a thought or a view that you have, or some course of action you're doing or about to do is going to bring you suffering. You just know through experience. So it means you have to contemplate a lot, learn a lot, look at your behavior a lot, do it a lot, be very mindful, very aware, and contemplate a lot. Do lots of retreats, really get to know your mind, know when you're suffering, what it's like when you're suffering, and where that suffering comes from. This is all the causes, conditions for intuitive awareness to arise. So, somebody does something that annoys you, you start to feel tense or anger coming up. Intuitive awareness says, don't go there. The more you hold on to that angry feeling and think those angry thoughts, the more you'll suffer. Whatever they've done, they may have done something horrible. That's separate. Intuitive awareness says if you identify with and hold on and indulge the angry thought, you'll suffer. So don't. And there's no question about it. If it's real wisdom, there's no doubt, there's no argument. You drop it like the cooker. You don't touch it once you know it will burn you. So dukkha, suffering, is hot. Buddha was always saying that. Dhamma is cool, like water. So the Dhamma, the wisdom that sees this is something that's going to lead to suffering, will cool your mind straight away. So if you're really quick and sharp, intuitive awareness will say, drop it. This way of thinking, don't think it, don't do it, don't say it. Greed, same. You're sort of thinking, I really want it. And then the other part of the mind says, no, don't go there. It's going to bring you suffering. I don't know what it is. Maybe you're walking along the street and you see the diamond necklace in the shop, but you don't have the money. So I want that. Oh, no, forget about it. And you have a little battle with yourself, and then you give in and you go and steal it because you haven't got the money. Oh, big trouble, isn't it? Big suffering. That's just an example. We do this every day with our greed. It's usually very ordinary stuff, isn't it? We focus on something, another person. I like them, I want something from them. You know, when you're in greedy mode, because you talk very sweetly to people when you want something. You know, if it's your parent, your husband, your wife, your workmate, you know, say, oh, how are you today? Oh, you're wearing some really nice clothes today. You look so good today. Can I borrow your car? There'll be something, won't it? When you've got greed, desire, you do things to get that. It's not necessarily wrong borrowing someone's car. I'm just giving you an example. You know, greed starts to heat you up in a different way from anger, but it's still going in the wrong way because you start to give in to desire, maybe to manipulate someone or even trick them to get something from them. Or maybe you override your own wisdom sometimes with greed, you know, you take on a debt that you can't really pay off. You know, mortgage, I really want that house. Oh, I can't afford the repayments, but I want it anyway. So you'd go and buy the house, and then you're in trouble, and then you have to get loans from everyone. The worst example is like when people are addicted to gambling, isn't it? You know, if you have intuitive awareness, you don't even go to the casino or any online gambling or anything. You just stay well away from it. You stay away from people who gamble because you know you'll suffer for it. But when the wisdom disappears, then you start kind of moving towards the website or moving towards the casino, and then you get the debt, and then you've got to sort out the debt and borrow it from someone else, and suffering comes, doesn't it? So whether it's greed, anger, or just delusion of views and opinions that we attach to too tightly and end up arguing with others, or causes us to be confused with ourselves, confused with others. Same. Intuitive awareness is, you know, the more we practice and train in contemplating, seeing cause and effect, understanding karma, understanding suffering, where it comes from, the sharper our awareness becomes. And so, you know, the more you practice, the more peaceful you'll be, because your wisdom is constantly developing. And you know certain actions, certain ways of behavior that just lead to suffering. So you quit. And if it's real wisdom, it never disappears. You never forget that lesson. You never doubt it. It's always there helping you. It's like a good friend. And it's just very quick. You know, it's like, forget it. Don't go there. Don't do that. Don't think that.
Ajahn, so just to clarify that one point around intuitive wisdom and perhaps wisdom in my mind, is the difference between those two is that one is understanding via experience and realization, because you can get wisdom from, let's say, Ajahn's talk, reading books, like kind of all these knowledge and things like that. But would you say that the differentiation is that, as you mentioned, it's something that has touched you and therefore you have a vivid memory, like you burning your hand, and so therefore is it less likely, or almost you would never repeat that mistake again? Thank you.
The way the Buddha talked about the development of wisdom is like 3 levels or kinds of wisdom. So like the first is what we call Suttamaya Panya, listening and reading. So you get the ideas, the concepts, the teachings, listening to talks, reading books, so on. And then the second level is Jintamaya Panya. You have to bring what you've heard and remembered into your mind and think it through so you understand it intellectually, makes sense, and you're comparing your experience, what you've heard and read, with what you're feeling, knowing in your experience. So you're kind of getting the Dhamma ready, but you know you still have craving and attachment, but you're getting the right view and the way to look at it. But then bhavana, my opinion, is the third level, comes from when you develop all the 8 factors of the Eightfold Path together, and particularly mindfulness is really strong, continuous. Samadhi is developing, stillness, calm, so that wisdom really sees very clearly and sharply that all phenomena, physical and mental, are impermanent, suffering, not self, not to be clung to as self. Whether it's a thought, a feeling, physical body, everything is not to be clung to. So the mind is being trained on the most deepest, most profound level. So like, somebody who's practiced a lot, they no longer have doubts about keeping precepts or the value of generosity, or they understand the law of karma very well, that there is such a thing as good karma, good actions, good results, bad actions, bad results. All of that they understand very well. They don't have doubts. That understanding is just normal to them. But they may still have very subtle attachments depending on where they are in their practice. They may still linger for a moment on a thought of greed or some kind of lust, or they may linger on a negative, angry thought for a moment until their wisdom kicks in and says, impermanent, not self, drop it. Or they investigate the relationship between the mind and the body, and the mind is being taught all the time, oh, this body is unattractive, impermanent, it ages, it gets sick, it dies, something to be let go of, which is a very deep understanding, deep wisdom. So you're constantly moving towards that, where you're just knowing and seeing truth rather than reading about it, hearing about it, thinking about it, remembering it. Your mind, it just becomes liberated from greed, anger, and delusion. So it is the truth. What they say, being Dhamma. It's how they talked about Ajahn Chah, being Dhamma. It's just because his mind is liberated, there's no more delusion, so everything becomes wisdom. So the words of an enlightened one are always bringing people to the Dhamma, always pointing to the Dhamma. Even if they talk about something very ordinary, it kind of brings that conversation into Dhamma. Whereas the unenlightened person, even if they try and talk about the Dhamma, they just get, the defilements come in, they creep in. So then they start thinking, did I give a good Dhamma talk? What do the people think about me? Do they like me? Do they hate me? The more worldly thoughts will come in, even if you're talking about Dhamma, when the mind is unenlightened. So we can't really describe the mind of an enlightened person, because words aren't enough to describe. But you get the idea. The kind of wisdom that you're developing through Buddhist practice is getting to the point where your mind is reflecting what you know. So your mind is not attaching to greed, anger, delusion. It's free. So it's peaceful, it's radiant. So the Buddha said, Nati panyasa manati. There's nothing as radiant as wisdom. It's the brightest of the bright. It's brighter than the sun, brighter than the star. Like here we get Venus star every morning, very beautiful. Wisdom is brighter than that. Nothing brightens the universe more than the Dhamma and Nibbana. So that's what you're aiming for. It's another way of looking at whether there's wisdom there or not. If there's wisdom, the mind will be brightening. When there's no wisdom, or wisdom fades, the mind fades, it gets darker. So if you become more greedy and more attached, your mind will become darker. There's different ways of looking at it.
Thank you, Ajahn.
There's another question here. This person would like some comments from you with regards to a statement, which is a quote, which is about mind over body. How does one prepare for physical pain at the sick bed or deathbed, and not allow the sense of torment and the physical pain to take over the mind? How would Ajahn teach us how to practice and prepare ourselves in advance as we face the chronic conditions of our physical pains?
Well, none of us know what lies ahead. You know, some people are quite full of merit and they have very little pain, even right to the end of their life. Like, you know, they die peacefully, no real pain, no strong disease or injury. They're lucky. Other people do get a lot more pain, and you just don't know what life brings you. But a good way to deal with pain is learn meditation, because you're learning to direct your mindfulness to whatever's arising in your experience as you sit. So almost certainly if you sit for longer periods, you'll get some pain coming up. Pain in your knee, pain in your back, feelings throughout your body, discomfort. How are you going to deal with that? So one quality that really helps is patience, endurance. Just learning to be able to sit longer, even though you feel restless or uncomfortable. That's a really good beginning point for learning how to deal with pain. Just learn how you can be patient with painful feelings. And secondly, bring up the mindfulness. So we say usually when you meditate, try to follow the breath in, breath out. But say someday you have a lot of pain in your body and you can't stay with the breath. It's too difficult. Well, before you stop meditating, send your attention to that painful feeling and learn about it. Because the basic delusion is, I am that pain. That pain is me, it's my pain. And that's why it causes us so much suffering. There's the feeling, which is there, maybe in your experience, but then what you think about it, your view of it, that tends to take over. And we start sitting there going, I hate pain. Whenever I meditate, it's always painful. So I hate meditation as well. My life is no good. It's full of pain, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the negative thoughts take over and we've forgotten all about the painful feeling. It's now a matter of our own negativity, anger, aversion. Mindfulness helps to unravel this process where you can just be mindful of the pain and you send your thought and your mind, your awareness to that feeling. Where is it? Ask questions. Where is it? If it's in the knee, is it in the bone or the skin? How big is that pain? You know, is it really kind of widespread over the whole leg, or is it in just one small spot? Is it there all the time? And you notice as you're meditating, there'll be a period where you feel maybe intense pain and you say, wow, I can't stand this. And then you wait a little bit and it all disappears. And many people have this experience. Your pain arises, comes there for a while, it's there, and then it passes away. When it passes away, does that mean it's gone? Or is it, what's happened? You know, ask yourself these questions, learn about it, and particularly learn how you you react to the pain with aversion and you identify with it as self. So you get both the feeling of pain and then your own aversion, and that's where you have to really work at it. But that's where you get a lot of good results, is just being mindful of a painful feeling without letting the mind go into aversion and trains of thought and reactions. And you don't have to be like superhero and sort of really ascetic, sit all day and all night without moving, but just learn to be more mindful of painful feelings as painful feelings without reacting to them. So, you know, satipatthana is becoming mindful enough just to know body as body, feeling is just feeling, whether it's painful or pleasant. Thoughts are just thoughts, the mind is just the mind. The more we practice mindfulness, the more you can do that. And so then you can learn how to deal with pain, and that knowledge and that wisdom will stick with you more and more. So it's the best preparation for the end of your life. And so many monks I've known that have developed this meditation, mindfulness of breathing or satipatthana. And then as they get older, they do have health problems. You know, different monks have different problems. They get cancer, they have heart disease. Luang Por Chah had so many ailments. I forget how many ailments he had. But they used their mindfulness to separate between the mind, the feeling, the body, and not let the mind go into suffering. The mind stays pure, peaceful, detached. That's the result of the practice. If you do it well, then you're ready for whatever life brings you.
Thank you, Bhante. There's another question. I'm going to try to be succinct with this question. And this question is with regards to this person's meditation. The question is, must joy always arise during meditation? And if it doesn't, how does one generate it? This person's meditation is now fencing on the gloomy mood, as he writes. It's not a mood swing, and he sees it like a personality or character shift. So the question that this person is asking is, must joy arise every time during meditation? And if he is in a bad mood during meditation, how does he reverse it? Or is it about karma setting in? So could Ajahn please comment on these questions?
What was the mood? The first word? Joy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Joy, like anything else, has its causes and conditions. So it can come from just recognizing the goodness of the Dhamma in a situation, hearing a talk, having your own reflection where you bring your mind to think of something good, wholesome, and joy arises. Meditating, for example. But then it's not always something that's just going to come up like that if you also have other moods bothering you, other attachments and desires coming up. So, or some situations you can't necessarily immediately bring up a feeling of joy if you've just had a car crash or an argument with someone or something, you know. But maybe you go away and you work at it. You've been stressed by something and you work at, first of all, bringing up some mindfulness, some clarity. That may take effort, of course. Bring your mind to bring up some skillful reflections as you become more mindful. So you turn your mind to think of something or reflect on something that's, you know, will make you feel more positive, more calm at that time. So you might reflect on the Buddha or your teacher or the quality of metta or forgiveness, or consciously bring up quality of patience and say, this has happened, I'm just going to be patient with it. Bring up the mindfulness. If you direct your mind to the breath, maybe you let go of all the negativity of that experience as quickly or as slowly as depending on your efforts and how much you try in the practice. Some things are easier to let go of than others, and you have to accept that. But sometimes our effort slips and our mind just gets stuck in a rut, so you just become very negative maybe, and instead of practicing and getting out of your ruts, you get further into the rut because really you've given up working with your mind sometimes, and you just start thinking more and more in a negative way, and it's like a downward spiral. So you have to keep working at it and find some skillful means that have worked for you before and then use them again. So if you found something did bring up joy before, well, you can always try that. The Brahma Viharas, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, I always find they're very quick to pacify the mind from a mood or any kind of suffering, whichever one is needed. And that's a skill, isn't it? You get to know which quality you need to bring up. Sometimes you just need to be very equanimous towards some difficult situation or difficult person or unpleasant feeling in your body. Other times you need metta. You bring up the kindness. Other times you come from compassion. So Brahma Viharas, I find, are very good just in general life for dealing with different kinds of suffering, different moods. Mindfulness, of course, will always give you the sense of self-control, ability to let go. And then reflecting on things and see if you keep holding on to a negative way of thinking, you're going to suffer. So keep reflecting and learning from your experience. You'll probably find over time, you get wiser and things go better.
Thank you, Bhante. So to the to the last question. The question here is, are there tips to overcome addictions to YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook, TV dramas, etc., and spending hours on them every day?
But what was the question about them? Addiction. Or like any other addiction, you need to bring up some discipline based on your own decision. You have to say, these things are not helping me. Maybe they're making my life worse. Therefore, I'm going to have to start limiting them. So you get the basic desire to limit your addiction, or the goal of even ending your addiction. Then you have to start putting it into practice. So you make rules for yourself, maybe how many hours you'll spend on these things, and reduce the time. So if you're really disciplined, maybe you just cut them out altogether, go somewhere where you've got no internet access, or give your phone away, something extreme. Some people do that, and at least they teach themselves to let go of all that stuff. If you're not ready for that, or not possible, we'll at least limit time. And so you have to be disciplined. You say, I'm going to spend this much time on it and no more. And you really stick to it, and you have to be disciplined. And every time the desire comes up to want to play with Facebook, YouTube, games, whatever, you have to say no. And you have to get in the habit of saying no rather than saying yes and giving in. And you just keep working at it. You set up your goals, and you make your short-term goals. Today, how many hours am I going to spend on it, or no hours? And your long-term goal, which is maybe to have the freedom to pick up or put down as you wish. That's your long-term goal, maybe. Short-term is just time-based. There's other reflections you can use as well to see how much time you've wasted on those things in the past. Have they really helped you? Did they make you more peaceful, wiser, better person? And if you agree with yourself that no, they didn't, then all the time you're bringing up the strength of mind to start letting go of some of that behavior. So it's just like smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, other kinds of behavior we get addicted to. You really have to make a decision based on your understanding that this thing is harmful for me, wasting my time, wasting my energy. And then you also have to have the discipline to put it into practice and make some rules and guidelines for yourself every day. But sometimes, you do something extreme for a short period of time just to teach yourself. So you go off on a retreat, a meditation retreat, where there's no phone and there's no access to internet, say, and teach yourself. And you'll see, oh, I didn't die. I didn't have my phone for 7 days. I didn't die. I was okay. And maybe even enjoy it. It's the same as all these things. When people go on a retreat and they stop speaking for 7 days, they keep noble silence. That should include not using social media, by the way. But you do it for 7 days and you realize, oh, I didn't die and the world didn't end, and it was quite pleasant. And some people have a revelation, and after 7 days they say, well, that was so good, I want to continue longer. So maybe you give up your apps and you think the world will collapse, but you realize it doesn't, and you're free, and you suddenly got all this time and energy, and you're looking at new things in your life, and you might have a nice, pleasant surprise. So be bold, try these things. You just try quitting for a while, see what it does.
Thank you, Long Pong. Can you take one last question, Long Pong?
Yep, I can.
Okay, can I please invite Spring 3 to unmute yourself, please?
Hello, Ajahn. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for your teaching, Ajahn. I just want to ask, it's very slow to get enlightened, and it's like taking forever, and why does it have to be so hard, and how can we make it easier? And I'm quite an impatient person, so I heard from my friend that he practices Dzogchen, and I went to read about it or watch YouTube about it. And then I was like, oh, this is great. It seems like it's like a direct way to get there. Seems to be faster. I'm not sure. So I was like,
Did
oh,
it work?
yes, some of the YouTube.
Did it work?
Yes, some of the YouTube works for me, but I'm scared because he said it can be dangerous. So I don't know if I should look out for any pitfalls for sort of like, yeah, following it and all that. That's my question.
In practice, yeah, I know. Ajahn Chah said, if you want a quick way to enlightenment and, the simple, direct way, just let go of everything. We can say that, but, the thing is, you say let go and then 5 minutes later you're attaching it again. That's the problem. We have to create the causes, and that's the practice, that's the path. You have to bring up all the qualities, the mindfulness, the wisdom, the continuous practice until you basically wear out the defilements, all your craving and attachment, you wear it out, and the Dhamma is what's left. The peaceful mind without craving, doesn't want anything, doesn't need anything. You can do to achieve that works, do it. So Zen practice helps, do it. I once went to India and sat under the Bodhi tree, and there was already a Zen monk there when I arrived, and he sat all night without moving. And if you've ever been to the Bodhi tree in India, the mosquitoes are huge and there's hundreds of them, and if you sit without moving, you have to be really determined because they really bite you badly. So I always remember him, he sat for like, maybe 12 hours? No, probably not, maybe 10 hours without moving, as far as I know. Why do I know? Because I was sitting right behind him. So I was trying to do the same. And he was just amazing, he just sat there. He didn't move. So I don't know if he was enlightened or not, but he certainly was doing the right thing, I think. The thing is, we don't try hard enough, do we? We try a little bit, and then, like you say, we go, oh, it's taking so long. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? It's all craving, isn't it? Coming back into the mind. You have to be very patient. Just keep working at it and just keep letting go of all those kind of cravings and desires around practice. Just have a revolution your ideas about time. If it takes short time, long time, doesn't matter. Whatever time, I'm just doing it. Because what's the alternative? You want suffering? You like suffering? You're enjoying your suffering? I don't think so. That's the alternative to practice, isn't it? You just want to carry on the suffering in life. Just do it. Do what's needed. Sila, samadhi, panya, mindfulness, wisdom, effort, just do it. And if it's quick or slow, doesn't matter. And enjoy it as you do it. Don't be sitting there miserable, say, oh, it's taking so long, and you become so negative about the whole thing, you're just going backwards. Just enjoy it as you do it, develop the right qualities, and just see how you go.
Thank you very much, Ajahn.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Dhamma. I think that there are no more questions from the floor. And perhaps we can call it a night now and let you have a good rest before your trip home.
Oh, all the best for my trip home. Thank you. Yes. And I'll say Gong Si Fa Chai, Xin Yin Kuai Le to everybody. Happy New Year. Year of the Tiger. So I hope you're all happy, well-fed tigers, so that you don't take your aggression out on other people, and that you carry on using your tiger energy in the Dhamma practice. Don't worry about how long it will take. You just do it. One breath in, one breath out. That's all you really need to know, isn't it? Just keep your mind in the present moment and don't worry about how long, how slow, how quick. Just do it. Keep doing it. So I wish you all well, and we'll finish by paying respects to the Triple Gem. And I think Wen Jia or Darren will lead us in that.